Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to listen to the very first episode of Creator Corner. I hope you enjoy this episode and gain something from it. Please pardon the occasional glitches and parts that cut out what Jed was saying. I hope to improve upon this as the podcast continues, but for now, enjoy the very first episode of Creator Corner. We are finally live. Thank you to everyone who was patient during the technical difficulties that we have. Throughout this interview, please let us know in the chat box whether you can hear me through this mic and you can hear Jed when I bring him on. So, this is the first episode of Creator Corner. The hope for Creator Corner was to do these as live streams, but due to some of the technical difficulties we had, that might not be the case. So, we might start pre recording these episodes and then releasing them on YouTube. So, if you are in this chat box, say hello. Please let us know if you can see and hear us. But we're going to get on with the episode. So, welcome to Creator Corner, the podcast that dives into everything creative. I'm your host, Ellis, and joining me today is Jed Hicks. He is the founder and owner of ETC Media, a company providing marketing services. Jed is also a student at New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. And in today's discussion, me and Jed will be discussing ETC's media, founding, mission, student life at NSA, and the future of digital marketing. So, Jed, welcome to the podcast.
Hey man, thanks for having me. This is exciting. So, I the basic things that I'm doing right now, running a digital marketing company and then going to New St. Andrews, and that takes up about all of my time. Uh, so I'll say a little bit about how I started a company. I'm only 19, so I'm a little young to be doing it, and it's still a pretty small scale thing. So keep that in mind. But um, basically, I've always been interested in the video world, audio world, making movies, different things like that, and wanted to pursue that further. Had always had a YouTube channel, did vlogs, things like that, um, and was really interested in seeing Christians kind of get better at making movies. A lot of Christian storytelling just feels really cheesy, and actually kind of makes me feel like a loser about being a Christian, makes it feel lame. And I was really bummed by that because I think Christianity has such a cooler history, and I believe the heroes of our faith are some of the greatest heroes ever. So I was bummed that our storytelling didn't reflect that, and was really hungry for people who wanted to change that. So, uh, skipping ahead a little bit, I found out about a streaming service called Lord TV, that was getting started up and was very much on this mission of redeeming Christian storytelling. Soon as I found out about it, I was a total geek and just followed everything they did. And lo and behold, my dad knew one of the founders, so I got connected with him. Later, they were looking for an intern, and I got a job doing digital marketing stuff for them. And that was like a dream come true. I couldn't believe I was doing that. So that was kind of my obsession for several years, doing advertisements for this streaming service that I really believed in the mission of, and still do. And I'm excited to see where it goes. It's still going. You should check it out. It's called Lore.tv, LOOR.tv. Um, but anyway, so I was doing digital marketing stuff for them. And that pretty quickly grew a lot. At first, it was just he's the guy who helps with social media. But soon I was like, hey, can I take care of the emails? Can I take care of uh, doing shooting advertisements and all these different things? And since it was a startup, they were like, sure, we don't have someone else doing it right now, so you can in the meantime. Um, and pretty quickly, I ran out of capacity because I was also a high school student. So I asked my boss, hey, can I hire a couple of friends to subcontract and just help me do some of these lower tasks, and they were like, "Sure, as long as it gets done." So that's how the company was born. I'm giving you more than you asked for. Is this good?
No, no, yeah, that's great. Because my next question actually was, why did you start ETC Media? So essentially, you started that inside of lore in a way to to not have all of the pressure on you. Um, so that was how many years ago?
That would have been oh, that's a good question. I'm 19 now, and I think I was 15 then, so something like 4 years ago.
So you were doing digital marketing for lore. When exactly was, because you said you you saw the trajectory of some Christian films and that they weren't good and you wanted them to be better. So that's when you found lore. Was that when you started wanting to do digital marketing, or where exactly was that moment in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, there was never, like, a moment in my life where I was like, "I want to do digital marketing." Like, it wasn't, like, the vision. I really love Mike Rowe has a quote where he says, "Don't follow your passion, bring your passion with you." And that's kind of what it felt like. Now I was passionate about the bigger mission, which was let's make Christian movies great again, sort of thing. And I saw Lore TV was doing that. So I basically said to Lore, how can I help? Our God is a good God, and he ends up giving you stuff that you find out you actually really enjoy. So I never would have thought I would enjoy digital marketing stuff, but um, God gave me that work to do. I did it, and now I'm starting to realize, oh, maybe this is kind of my calling. Like I do really enjoy this. So yeah, that's how I got into it initially.
So I did see something on LinkedIn. So you started out with lore, and then I saw a post on LinkedIn recently where you were doing content for Veritas Surgery in Idaho. So what exactly does the clients look like for ETC Media? As it's not this major company, and where it's a smaller company. Is it usually just smaller businesses like that, or what's the clients look like for ETC Media?
Yeah, man. Good question. So it's a pretty wide range of things. It's mostly people I know. I try to stick to that. Try to stick with companies that I can really get behind. Because I mean, ultimately, I'm grateful to have work to do. But if I can do work that I think is really meaningful and extending the kingdom of God, taking dominion, I'm really excited to work with those companies. Just like Lord TV, that was my first client, and maybe in a way, I got spoiled by getting to do great work for a great company. So now I try to stick with that generally. So Veritas Surgery Center is a great example of that. They're a company that's kind of changing the whole system of healthcare by offering surgery for cash only. So they're cutting out the insurance um, from the whole
Oh, wow.
equation, which I think is what needs to happen. Um, that system is so corrupt, and we really need to get back to the basics with it. But to answer your question, clients tend to be people I know, people in the community who I think are doing good work, are like-minded, um, and it's a wide range of things. I'm trying to get more into the world of free market medicine, so people who I think are disrupting the world of medicine, because I think there's a lot of people dying right
Yeah.
now in the healthcare system. It's a messy, messy system, um, and it needs to be burned to the ground, and we need to build a new system. And a big part of that is gonna be messaging, educating people. Here's what's wrong with the system. Here's the new system we need. Educating doctors, showing them, hey, you can pull out of the huge corporation and work for a smaller company, and it's gonna be okay. Um, I think that stuff needs to happen. So I'm starting to lean more into finding clients in that world. Veritas Surgery is one, and there are a couple others that we're starting to work. So
So you you're only 19, and this might not be so much the case, since you work with um a lot of friends and people you already know. But have you faced a lot the problem of, I'm only 19, so some people aren't going to hire me because they they don't necessarily have faith in a 19-year-old, where there's this 30-year-old who has this rap sheet, this record, this portfolio, multiple pages long, where as so how do you go about telling a client, yes, I'm 19, I don't have that much of, that big of a portfolio as this 30-year-old that you could hire, and will get the specific job you want done. How do you go about explaining to clients why you should pick me and not the other person who has a much bigger portfolio, and you can, in a way, put more faith in and more trust in, to say the job will get done here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the main thing is, you their concern is completely valid, and you need to recognize that. Uh, Older people have earned their reputation, their repertoire. Like, they've earned that, and they get to charge more because of that. So I think you need to be willing to work for cheaper, but you should set expectations in such a way where you say, "I really need to be making more eventually, but I know you're taking a risk by hiring me, and I appreciate you taking
Mhm.
that risk, so I will take some of the front end of that risk by working for cheaper." I have a good friend, Alaska Youngren, who's an amazing, amazing designer. She's done a lot of work with ETC Media. She is also only 19, I believe. She's in my class at New St. Andrews. And when she first was getting into this world, she went to a lot of companies and said, "Can I make a website for free for you? Like, let me just design a website for you." And what was brilliant about that was they were like, "Oh, for sure, I'll do it." And very quickly realized she was amazing. Now she has a portfolio, she has a bunch of people who trust her, and now she's working for some of the best design agencies out there. Um, so I highly recommend, like, since clients are taking a risk on you, like, work for cheap, work for free if you can. The other advantage of being young is you have less bills to pay and less to
Yeah.
lose. Um, so take some risks, and then work your tail off. And if you work your tail off, they'll want to keep you, and you can ask for a raise every year, right? Um, so yeah, start small, but work your tail off, and I think God will
Uh-huh.
bless your.
So what does, you mentioned Alaska, Youngren. What does I guess, figuring out how to phrase this, but the people that work with you on ETC Media, what does that team look like a bit? Is it a bunch of, you have maybe one person graphic designing, one person video editing, one person video shooting, one managing other things? What does the per se team of ETC Media look like a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Some hires have been purely, I have a client that I don't have time to do this aspect of the job, and I'll just hire someone that I know has a good work ethic, and I'll train them to do that one job.
Mhm.
So there's some people that have done that, and then their skill has slowly grown, and I've given them more things. And a lot of the work we do is pretty entry level, like you can teach it pretty quickly. Um, Others I've hired, like Alaska, I have some guys who do video stuff who had the skill when I hired them, and I kind of just know their capabilities, and then,
Mhm.
uh, like, I know I have this much capacity for designing websites and this much capacity for doing video production. Let's say I have 2 video producers, and they can each give me 10 hours a week. So I try to find about 20 hours of video production work a week, right? Um, so it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I have a bunch of guys with different skills. So I just try to find projects and then distribute it out. But yeah, it's not too complicated, really.
Yeah. So, you've mentioned New St. Andrews a bit, and obviously, I want to get into what life looks like doing a business and New St. Andrews College, because I'm sure we've all seen the New St. Andrews ads where it's like, we're going to work your butt off in this course, and it's, Christian boot camp. Um, so, but first of all, I wanted to ask you one thing while we're on the topic of media marketing, because right after Donald Trump was announced to be the next president, you mentioned in a LinkedIn post that Christians must take over the media and arts, which I feel like we all agree that we want Christians, taking over the media and arts, and that's one thing you're doing, one thing Lore's doing, and other companies are doing. Um, but what, in a way, what do you think are the ways that Christians are failing in taking over these, media and arts and film and all of this other stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of different factors I think playing into it. I think a big one is Christians are lazy. I think that's the truth. We're very lazy, and we're lazy, and we're not moving because an even more deep issue, which is we don't have a vision for the kingdom of God, and we don't have ambition for the kingdom of God, and that's because we don't see the glory of the kingdom of God. We don't. If you truly see it, then you just want to run to it and you want to build it and pursue it. You're filled with passion. I mean, you think about like movements that get a lot of steam, like the woke agenda or communism. It's because those people have a vision for what they think the world should look like, and think if they get there, like it's going to be utopia, and they really want to get there, so they'll work their tails off to push that mission. Christians don't have that vision of the kingdom of God. So I think we need to recover that, and that's going to be a theological recovery that needs to happen. So that means getting in the word, reading, praying, worshiping rightly. um, so I think that's phase one, and that's, we could say that's the root to a lot of issues, but you got to peel back even for this media thing. Um, and I think once we have that vision, we'll work harder, we'll pursue it more faithfully. Um, and then I think the other issue is we have bad systems in place. Uh, so, for example, PureFlix is a big
Yeah.
Christian media outlet. um, PureFlix was bought by Sony several years ago. So the same money that's producing all of the gross stuff that you're trying to get away from on Netflix are the people funding PureFlix. And actually, what they do is they put as little money as they can into it, and then get huge returns because all of the Christians are guilted into watching it.
Yeah.
They also, PureFlix, as I understand it, would do deals with huge churches, basically convincing the pastors to buy tickets for everyone in their congregation, um, calling it evangelism.
Interesting. That's weird.
Uh, so it's a jacked up system. We need better systems. That's why I'm really passionate about what Lord TV is doing. Again, viewers, check out Lord TV if you haven't yet. It's really, really awesome. Um,
I can
and then,
testify to that.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's
was
right.
I was meeting
They're
with Marcus Pittman this morning, um, and I actually texted you, and was running a little late, because he's here in Arizona for Amfest, and he was like, "Oh, where do you know Jed?" I was like, "Oh, you know, I follow him on LinkedIn." That's where I met him.
fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Well, yeah, Lord TV is awesome, and then there's also companies like Angel
Mhm.
Studios, which I think are doing great work. Um, so there's clearly a bit of a revival in that area. I think, also in general, we need more wealthy Christians who recognize the importance of good art, wealthy patrons who would support making an actually good story. I think churches need to take media more seriously. Um, like pastors should be starting podcasts. Churches should be funding stories. It shouldn't just be the for-profit businesses that are doing it. I think actually the for-profit incentive can cause some problems, because you're no longer just trying to speak the truth, but you're also trying to get people to click on your video, which means being clickbaity, being fiery, saying things that you don't need to
Yeah.
say necessarily. Um, so anyway, that's a long way to say I think we need better systems, and I think we need more Christians who are on fire to pursue it, and I think that will set us on the right path.
Yeah, so jumping off a bit of what you just said there is, pastors needing to start up podcasts. And I was listening to a clip maybe a couple weeks ago, whenever Darren Doan was on Cross Politic, promoting "Don't Be Precious," or yeah, whatever it's called. I don't exactly remember off the moment. Um, but he mentioned that podcasts are the way to market things today, because so many people, whenever a TV ad comes on, what are you doing? You're scrolling on your phone through Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. You're never paying attention to that ad on the TV. And now there's so many streaming platforms where you don't have ads because you pay this extra $10 a month or whatever it may be. But the way to market and advertise is via podcasts, because people trust the podcast host and trust that if they're advertising this, then it must be safe, because I trust this person, I trust their values, like a mother listening to Ali Best Stuckey or something like that, where they trust Ali Best Stuckey. So if Ali Best Stuckey advertises, "Hey, there's this new kids streaming platform. There's this new kids book out that, is good values for your kid," then they know, I trust Ali Best Stuckey. She has kids. She has a family. So therefore, I'm going to buy this product, whether it's right as I hear it on the podcast, or maybe 1 week after, as you think about it. So what do you think about that? Do you think that podcasts are the future of marketing, and how should people go about that? Because so many people nowadays, they still want, you know, YouTube videos and websites and website videos and all that stuff, which is great. We're happy to make that. But what do you what do you think about podcasts being the future of marketing, and how exactly should people go about that?
Yeah. Good question. I I don't know if I would go so far as to say like it is the future in the sense we're never gonna go to something else,
Mhm.
but I think it is the thing right now, and I think you would be foolish to not put yourself into it. Um, and I don't think it's an inherent like I don't think there's anything wrong with the system. So, podcasts are great because uh, it's basically a way to sit in on a conversation with people that are smarter than you. It's like, sitting around a campfire smoking cigars, but I get to do it with Ben Shapiro or with Joe Rogan or
Mhm.
whoever it is. Um, and people often listen to it while they're doing chores around the house or whatever. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's a fun thing. The other huge advantage of podcasts is you can make so much digital content out of it, because you get a 30-minute conversation that was super easy for them to do. They just wrote a couple interview questions and then kind of just let the conversation flow. Um, and then your editors go in and find these little tidbits that were really awesome and then post those to social media. Those reels do crazy well. Some people will watch more Joe Rogan clips than they listen to Joe
Yeah.
Rogan podcast episodes. Um, and then those feed into the full episode. So it's a beautiful system. You can also take quotes from the podcast and make a graphic out of it. Like you're just making tons of material. Um, and you're just reminding people what you're about. You're reminding people that you're an actual person, not just some
Mhm.
guy in his closet, answering emails like, "Oh, look, I can see his face and I can
Yeah.
hear him talk, and he's a real person," which people find really important these days. That's also why you need to be on social media, because people, before they buy anything or go to any store, they check out their Instagram. "Oh, is this place legit? Like,
Mhm.
can I actually see a picture of someone inside of it? Or is this, like, some weird website, and then I'm gonna go there and it's a weird store?" Um, so, yeah, I think it's a great system, and I think Christians are really self-conscious about getting onto podcasts. I think they think it's, maybe prideful, or they don't have anything good to say. Um, and I would push back and say, like, imagine if the Apostle Paul had access to a podcast microphone and the internet. Like, the Apostle Paul would be posting podcasts every
Yeah.
day. Um, and and as Christians, we're called to preach the word, to not hide our light under a bowl, under a lampshade. And it doesn't really matter if you don't think you're good enough, if you don't think you're articulate enough, you still need to be out there. When God asked Moses to lead Israel, he said, like, "Well, Lord, I have a lisp, I have a stutter," and that was sinful of him. He should have just done it because God called him to do it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, in the same way, Christians need to get out there, because people are going to be listening to podcasts, so it might as well be yours, right? It might as well be a Christian, not people like Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan. We don't need more of that. So
Yeah. And so, that's one thing that you mentioned a bit is you can have this 30-minute podcast episode, but then you can divide it into, Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts and 8-minute clips, things like that. Um and so I'm not on TikTok. Um and the TikTok ban is, going to the Supreme Court, or they say it's going to be like banned in January unless some person in the US buys TikTok and will be removed from the app stores. What are your thoughts on that? Because, like, obviously, Donald Trump is going to be the next president, and Donald Trump has like a huge TikTok following. Like, he's big on TikTok. Um and so, like, I'm not on there, but everyone's like, this is where you have to be, this is the future. And um but then they're like, oh, unless some American company or person buys it in January, that it's going to get removed from the app stores, which I don't think will stop people from using it, because um I heard a tech content creator say that even if that happens, people are still going to use it through VPNs. It might not run as fast because so many people are trying to use it. So what do you think about that? And, like, people in marketing are like, "Oh, this is, TikTok's the place you have to be. Like, this is where all the Gen Z, all the young people are. This is how you capture people." And yet it could be gone from the App Store in, a couple of weeks.
yeah, yeah, I don't think it hurts to be on there, unless you discover a reason that it does hurt your company. But I don't think it hurts to be on there. Um, I think I haven't followed the whole legal battle a lot, but I do think a huge piece of it is, since TikTok is a foreign company, basically Facebook and Google with YouTube are putting a lot of money into lobbying against it because it's American
Mm,
competition. Um, YouTube and Facebook are behind. They're realizing that the TikTok short form scrolling content is the most addictive and will get the most advertisement time. Um, but they were too late to the chase. So now TikTok is eating their breakfast.
mhm.
So they're going to the courts, they're lobbying, saying, "Oh, it's spying on you." But Facebook and Google are spying on you too,
Yeah.
and no one's talking about that. So, if you're concerned about spying, don't be on any social media.
Yeah.
'Cause they're spying on you either way. Um, but if you've kind of already given up on that front, or if you have systems in place to protect the information you need, then I say,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's where I stand on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's always those interesting things because I have seen some people that are like, well, I have to be on TikTok. And so they just get on TikTok, but they don't know what to create. So they just start creating random things. Um, so you know, it, if if podcasts are in a way, um, maybe not necessarily the future of digital marketing, um, but they're the present. Uh, in your perspective, what do you think that the future of marketing might be in 10 or 20 years as we look at things around us? Do you think it will mainly be social media or maybe even newspapers come back or TV ads come back? What from what you're seeing at the moment, what do you think marketing will look like in 10 or 20 years, especially with the huge rise in AI right now?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a little hard to say because I think we are kind of at a pivoting moment.
Mm.
What's been really interesting with Biden in office and his economy, companies have a lot less money to throw around. You know, uh, so one of the first things that tends to go to the chopping block is marketing, because marketing is a lot harder to track with metrics than, let's say, sales or um, different departments, right? Marketing, sometimes you do a radio ad and you have no idea how
Mm.
effective it was. Like, you can't really point to, oh, that person came in because of the radio ad, and you could do a couple, but you wouldn't be able to track exactly how many it brings in. So, when companies are looking for things in their budget to cut, marketing tends to be pretty quick on the chopping block. Um, so that combined with AI and a lot of other tools that are making content creation a lot easier, um, it's forcing a lot of marketing people like me to figure out ways to pivot. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that just means you need to figure out the next way to be helpful. Um, Marketing will always exist. You're always going to have messaging that you want to get out there, and trying to build a brand and a sense of reliability. Um, so it's not like it's going away, but it's definitely going to change forms. But it's a little too soon to say how. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz I definitely think um AI is going to change a lot of things. And then once Trump gets in office, a lot of things will change as he starts making different changes, and people like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, and because with the amount of podcasts that Trump did, and with the help of Barron, I think it's shed light a bit on these this this time in our marketing, where yes, Trump's campaign ran ads, but they were on a lot of podcasts, and so Barron's, I feel like, shed a lot of light on that. Um, and so we mentioned it earlier, but now I want to get a bit more in the weeds. So you are, um, unless you have something to add to that.
No, no, I think I agree. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there's there's a vibe shift coming. I've heard this term thrown around a little bit, but basically the idea that wokeness is no longer very cool,
Mhm.
um, and Christian conservative values are becoming a lot more mainstream. Elon Musk tweeting, "You are the media now."
Yeah.
That couldn't be a more true statement. Like, that's what we're living in now, where you don't need to be politically correct to have a
Yeah.
humongous following. Um, and I think the harvest is right. Like, Christians would be idiots to not jump in with all of their effort right now because there could not be a better time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think some of the changes we're gonna see in the next coming months will be very, very pivotal and big. Um, so you also are a student at New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho, while running this. But first, what does a day to day life in yeah, I know you've done what was it, 2 videos, I believe, on Substack reviewing New St. Andrews College. Um, but so what is a bit of a day-to-day life as a New St. Andrews College student look like?
It looks crazy. It looks pretty absurd. So, classes, it's about, it depends on the load you're taking, but if you're a full-time student, it's gonna be about 4 or 5 classes, um, and you'll have a class or a lecture earlier in the week, and then a recitation later in the week, and at recitation, you're, sitting in a smaller, group setting with your professor and more, displaying that you've really internalized the content in the lecture and in the readings. Um, your professor will often drill you. So, right now I'm in a history class, and a recitation would often look like my professor in this circle of 8 students or whatever going, "Hey, Jed, tell me about Alcibiades." And hopefully you know about Alcibiades at this point. If you don't, then you haven't been listening to the lectures, you haven't been doing the reading.
Mhm,
Uh, so So day to day, I mean, it's probably like most universities. You have, there's a dress code. So every morning I wake up and put on a suit jacket, and so I guess that looks a little different. Um, but as far as the school, it's a really phenomenal school. They really push you. They're not trying to make you comfortable. They're trying to make you very uncomfortable. Your first year, you take rhetoric and you have to give a speech in front of your class every week. Um, and that frightened me
yeah,
like crazy. And uh, first term, they have rugby, which is another great opportunity to like do something that's uncomfortable, that's scary. You got to tackle dudes that are bigger than you.
mhm,
Um, but all of these things, like especially when you're young and you have nothing to lose and you don't have a family depending on you yet, you got to be doing those things because it's making you tougher.
mhm.
Um, it's giving you new experiences. Um, so yeah, New St. Andrews, it's been amazing. Crazy, crazy hard workload. Their workload combined with what I'm doing for my company. For my company, I'm maybe doing 20 to 30 hours a week total. So put that on top of school, and it's usually I'm waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. and going to bed at 10 or 11 p.m. And there are no breaks. So that's about the workload. It's a little absurd,
Mhm,
but um, again, while you're a young man or a young woman and you don't have a family depending on you, uh, needing your presence, like you just need to be working hard and trying to get ahead on career stuff and on your education and your walk with God. And as a last note, I'll say the big advantage of doing really hard things, like learning this stuff is great, but the biggest advantage is learning faith, learning to I have too much to do, right? Going to bed and saying, I haven't finished everything I need to do. I'm going to fail this test or that test. And saying, Lord, I trust you. You've given me this work to do. I'm going to try as hard as I can and let you bring the results.
mhm.
Um, and you can intellectually understand that, but it's not until you get the reps that it's actually internalized. So you got to put the reps in. So yeah, that's a little glimpse into what New St. Andrews is like.
Yeah, that uh definitely um be good for a lot of people. Uh, I know my dad has always told us. He's like, you have to have that, and you touched on it a bit of super hard things, and he's always said, you have to have one job that you might not hate, but you don't like the job, you don't like what you're doing, so that I don't want to do that again. Um, so, um, kind of, um, so you live in Alabama, but you you go to New St. Andrews. So most of the time, I'm assuming, yeah, you're in Idaho, and um, do, I still probably a lot of us have seen. I have seen it. Um, the um, New St. Andrews ad, with I forget exactly what they said, but hoisting, learning how to hoist Jolly Roger, or Johnny Cash's favorite middle finger, and they went under so much heat for that. Um, and I remember listening to the Duck and Friends afterwards, and like they were like, we edited that, in a very very intentional way, um, and they said what they, they explained what they meant, and I thought that was all good, and even Doug Wilson was like, he was like, I saw it, he was like, I saw one of the earlier revisions, didn't have that. He's like, it came out, and he was like, I'll let people take care of that. But what being a student at New St. Andrews College, and I'm assuming a lot of your friends, are from New St. Andrews, or not against New St. Andrews, but do you ever have that moment where you're like, "Oh yeah, I go to New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho," and people are like, "Oh, that college."
Y Yeah, I haven't had too much of it, mostly because I just don't run in very respectable Christian
Mhm.
circles. I tend to kinda just run in these circles, this year you see people at New St. Andrews, um, and and there's a level where, you know, I try to like, I try to act like a Christian with whoever I'm interacting with, um, but, Christ says, the those who aren't sick aren't in need of a physician, um, and a lot of those people who really mock New St. Andrews, um, mock it because they're respectable and they want to stay respectable and they wanna keep Christianity respectable, um, and to them, I would say, "Alright, you've got it figured out, so, like, don't talk to us, like, you
Yeah.
don't y like, why do you care?
Mhm.
If you've got it figured out." But the truth is they're bored and they wanna cause trouble, and they feel threatened by Christians who are being vocal, and I could say more to the NSA marketing is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. They're 100% stealing from the Marine
Yeah.
Corps. If you watch Marine Corps advertisements, it's a very similar vibe, and it attracts young men who don't give a flying rip about being sensitive and about being very careful. Um, because and that's intentional because New St. Andrews and our world does not need careful men right now. We need men who are risk takers, who are bold. That's what's going to bring back the safety of the world if we have dudes who take risks and who fight dragons. And yeah, it's messy business. They're going to like we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do stupid stuff. That doesn't mean we don't do it. So I'm a huge fan of how they've handled that, and we need more advertisements that use the middle finger. I stand by that.
Yeah. Uh, and like I definitely, um, hear that we need more Christians and more men, and that's kind of going back earlier to what you said, is we need more Christians and we need more men who are willing to stand up and be bold and build and create things. And I was even listening to a clip from another podcast where the guest was discussing that. Um, you look at guys like Elon Musk, and he builds Tesla, SpaceX. He bought Twitter. He bought all of the stuff. He's very wealthy, but he builds. And we don't have to have all this money to build, but we just need to stop sitting on the couch and start going out and building. And we need that for churches, we need that for families. And we have places like NSA, which are equipping men to build. Because if you look at Moscow, Idaho, like there's so much there. And there's New St. Andrews, and they're always evolving. Is the thing. You've got New St. Andrews, you've got Canon Press, you've got your company ETC Media, you've got Joe and Creative Agency, you've got just an abundance of different things, and I hope to see that in other places, because instead of just waiting on someone to start the building for us, we rather need to start building, because I fear, or not necessarily fear, but I feel like a lot of Christians, in a way, are it's some sense scared, in a sense that we don't want to start building because we don't have all this money. Where I was even talking with Marcus Pittman this morning, and they're at the funding stage, and that before Lord was officially before it was officially out there, the website, um, they were talking about it, but they weren't waiting for $3 million to come in. They weren't waiting for $5 million to come in. They just started building. So, you know, what are your hopes? What does the future hold for you as you wrap up NSA? Um, what does the future of ETC Media look like? Does it look like once you finish NSA, it will become a lot bigger? Or what exactly does that future look like once you've graduated NSA and you're no longer in school?
Yeah, good question, man. There's a I'll preface this by, of course, saying it's in the Lord's will. So we'll see. I'm kind of just doing the work He puts before me, and then trusting Him with the rest. But that doesn't mean you can't make a vision and start walking down a path and see if He opens the doors. Um, so I have a lot of ideas. Definitely the short-term goal is to keep growing my company, get it to a really sustainable point. I hope to kind of shift it more and more into a video production company. We're just slowly starting to get into that world. We've always done a little bit of it, but I want to get really into that world
Mhm.
in skill and equipment and financially to do our own creative filmmaking, create our own movies, and do it completely independent of any other system. So that's like the big, end goal for the marketing agency, but also like I hope to always be doing what we're doing now, which is just helping good companies do good marketing. Um, uh, as far as other projects, I think education is phase one for any community. I take that back. That's not true. Worship is phase one for any community. Worship is the bedrock. You need to have right worship. I think you could say worship is like the bones of a person. It's the bones of the body. Um, After that, you need the immune system. You need the organs, and I would say that's education because right thinking is what enables you to fight and resist bad things, and then also glorify the good things. Um, so I'm really interested in helping educational efforts in my hometown here in Huntsville, Alabama. So I'm not sure what that will look like. Maybe it will be starting homeschool co-ops, maybe uh, K through 12 schools. There's talks of a college right now, probably something similar to New St. Andrews, but with more of a focus on science, technology, engineering, math, that sort of stuff. So educational efforts and then storytelling, those are kind of the main goals, the main vision for what I hope to do with my career.
Yeah, so obviously um your company's based in Idaho, and but your family and you're in Alabama. So once you've graduated from New St. Andrews, does it look like you will relocate up into Idaho, or um, will you move your company and build it up in Alabama?
Yeah. This is kind of another preface it by saying it's the
Yeah.
Lord's will, but my hope is to in my 4 years at New St. Andrews, I'm in my sophomore year, so I have a little more than 2 years left to establish a Moscow office. Like, I hope to physically own an office in Moscow, Idaho, and have managers over that branch. Um, and the hope is by having an office there, I would be able to work with the companies in that area. Um, so, and that gets back to my mission, which is to work for companies that I think are doing good, and a lot of those are going to be based in Moscow, Idaho. So I hope to establish a Moscow office, and then once it's kind of self-sustaining, move to Alabama, and then establish a Huntsville office. But personally, I hope to come back to Alabama. We have a very similar thing to what's happening in Moscow in its initial phases right now. Um, and my family's here, so this is where I want to be, and I hope we can continue to build the kingdom of God here in Huntsville. And I hope lots of people from New St. Andrews move out and start similar things because that's the need of the hour. It's great that they're consolidating and making like a real powerhouse in Moscow, and that needs to continue, but it also needs to spread throughout. So that's my plan as of right
Mhm.
now.
No, yeah, that definitely is a thing where um, obviously people are going to move to Moscow because of the community they see there. But then one of the things that New St. Andrews can do is equip these people to go out and um, build elsewhere. And you're already seeing that happen in places like um, Florida, in Pensacola, um, and so different things like that. So as we come a bit to a close, I see it's already run for an hour, and according to OBS streaming, we've only dropped 1,257 frames, which I'm going to take as a good thing. Um, so we might not do all of these interviews on Creator Corner as live streams, but I think it's worked so far. Um, chat ha- chat if you are still there, please let us know if if this has worked. Um, but so as we wrap this interview up to a close, what would be your advice for young and upcoming creators as they look to either go to New St. Andrews or start building, or want to go in to film or media marketing? What would you say as your piece of advice to these people?
Yeah, great question. So I think step one is do it. Just do it, as Nike would say. You really just need to stick your head out there. Like, it's gonna feel dangerous. It's gonna feel a little risky,
Mhm,
uh, and that's good. Um, you know, especially young men. Like, you're called to be an adventurer. The glory of a young man is his strength, and that requires going into dark caves where you don't know what's inside. But it's so glorious when you finally get a campfire started and you can see inside the cave and whoa, the ceiling is 30 feet
mhm,
up, right? That's a glorious feeling. And you get to say, oh, I revealed all of that. I entered into the cave and now I'm familiar with these places and I can, live in them and thrive in them. It's very similar with marketing or whatever trade you want to get into. Initially, it's going to feel very like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Um, no one recognizes me here. I don't know what I'm doing. That shouldn't be the sign to you to say, okay, I should back up. I should go to college. I should get certified and then I'll enter the cave. You just have to go into the cave. And that's the best way to learn how to figure things out, by just trying it and having the pressure of someone expecting you to get it done. Um, that's going to force you to learn it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I would say take risks. Just get into the space. As I said earlier, start small. Like, don't ask for $75 an hour on your first job.
Yeah.
Like start small, work for free even, if you can, and be grateful to these clients who are taking a risk in hiring someone that's young like you. And then once you get the opportunity, like, just work crazy, crazy hard, pursue excellence, uh, pray like crazy. There's going to be a lot of times where you're not sure you're going to be able to deliver. And you're going to be tempted to be anxious, to freeze, to give up. Uh, just pray and then work hard, and then God will provide the harvest. He promises this to us, and it might not be the result you were hoping for, but it's the one you needed. So that's how you proceed in faith. But yeah, I would say that's the main thing. Like, don't don't wait until you feel certified and approved to go do it. Like, you have to just do it. You have to try the new things. And and sometimes you're gonna feel, people call it imposter syndrome, where they're in a role or they've signed up to do a job, and then they start doing it and feel like they don't know what they're doing, and they feel like an imposter, like, oh, I said I could do this and I'm not sure I can. That is the devil. Do not listen to that. That is the devil who's accusing you, who's trying to blame you, and trying to get you to give up and to lose faith. You need to say instead, no, God gave me this work. God told me to do this, so I can do it. Um, so yeah, that's the main thing. Work hard, try new things, and have faith. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's definitely great because I feel like a lot of people um don't see that, and you know in a way think, oh, I have to have all these certifications, all these, this giant portfolio, and you're never going to get that unless you start and you just push yourself um to get that. So, um any any final thoughts about anything we have talked about today in this interview?
One story did come to mind. I was my pastor in Moscow is Pastor Wilson, and I went to a couple lunches with him and a few other freshmen at New St. Andrews. And I asked him, what would be like, what do you want to see more of out of the young men in this community? Um, and this isn't verbatim, but he said something to the effect of, "I wish you young men would get into more trouble."
Mm.
Which I was like, what does that mean? Like, please qualify that. And he explained and basically said, well, right now you guys aren't doing anything.
Mm.
And I would much rather you be doing stuff and making a mess of it than you be sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because laziness, that is the devil's playground. That is where lust and sin and hate and bitterness festers, and it will bear horrible, horrible fruit.
Mm.
But if you have a guy who's trying to start a company or do some sort of party or event, and maybe did some detail that really blew it up and made it really public that he messed up, at least that guy was doing something, and at least he learned from it. Um, and now he's not going to do it again. Um, so yeah, getting back to what I was saying earlier, like, you just need to do the thing, start the club, start the event, host things, start companies. you're gonna make mistakes and everyone's gonna see it, and that's good for you. That's the best way to learn, and it's much better than if you were lazy and harboring sin. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, uh, definitely. Um, yeah, from different articles and different sermons and speeches I've listened to and read of Pastor Wilson stuff. Uh, he definitely, I can definitely see him saying that, and everyone being like, "Wait, what do you mean? Don't what?" Uh, so, um, where can people find more about you and follow your work?
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you asking. So the primary place I'm on is LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So just look me up on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. If you're a company looking for digital marketing stuff, send me a message. I'd be happy to help and see if there's a way we can help. And then if you want to follow some of my more like fun video editing stuff, jedhicks.substack.com. I've done a lot of vlogs there. I've done a couple mini films, and I hope to keep creating stuff when I have free time there. So yeah, those would be the primary places to follow me.
Yeah. And all of those will be linked down below in the description of this episode. So, Jed, thank you once again for coming on this very first episode of Creator Corner, and hopefully people got something out of it. But thank you once again for coming on.
Thanks, man. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this very first episode of Creator Corner. Let us know what you thought, and if the future of this podcast should be live streams or um, pre-recorded, which it may end up being pre-recorded. But if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and a comment down below, and go check us out on Spotify and leave a 5-star rating there. You can just search Creator Corner, and there's a couple others, but if you look for our logo, you will find us there on Spotify. This interview will go up on Spotify shortly after this live stream on YouTube is done. And so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and let us know. If you didn't enjoy it, be sure to hit the thumbs down button twice, and I will see you in the next episode of Creator Corner.